This week's episode of An Echo of Glory is a bumper episode. We look back at the win against Forest and head to, hopefully, the win against Newcastle. We also talk about the finances that were released last week with Oliver Young-Myles. Welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. Joining me this week, Jake Robson.
Hello.
Hello, welcome back.
Thank you.
And also welcome back to Ali Tweedale.
Thank you.
Opta analyst.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
Good. So rotation policy, we had Jamie.
It's that time of the season.
It's that time of the season.
Tired legs.
Tired legs. Jamie Brown and Jake Sanders in last week, but freshened it up.
They did a job.
Yeah, they did a job, but freshened it up. Actually, it's a bit like the whole Bissouma Sarr, Benson Hoiberg thing. Maybe you can get yourself a seat for the rest of the season.
I'm not going anywhere.
We'll come to that.
Why? What's got something to tell me?
Yeah, you're my Bissouma.
Oh,
Used to be good. Right, club news. Under 21s, as Gary Diamond, also part of the rotation policy on this pod, said to me,
Who?
Spurs, yeah, who? Spursy gonna Spursy. The under 21s have had an amazing season, managed to blow a 2-0 lead against 10-man Reading. They're level on points with West Ham. They do have 2 games in hand. Santiago and Lancashire scoring. I nearly read that as Lineker. It's Lancashire. The 18s also played Reading, won 6-1 away from home. Mikey Moore among the scorers. No women's game as the international break continues. Got the semi-final. As I keep plugging, on Sunday at home to Leicester, which I'm going to. Looking forward to that. Can the ladies get to their first FA Cup final? I think they will.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah. And a bit of sad news this week. Joe Kinnear passed away aged 77. 265 appearances, 2 goals for the club, won 1 FA Cup, 2 League Cups and 1 UEFA Cup. When I was looking at just a little bit of a dive into Joe Kinnear's career, I noticed something about the 1972 UEFA Cup final, which I'm going to tell you now. You're waiting.
I don't remember it well.
You don't remember the 91 FA Cup final, let alone the
afraid.
72 UEFA Cup final. The referee in that game was the Russian linesman from the
Whoa,
1966 World Cup final.
That's a good stat.
Yeah, and
Very
the Azerbaijani national stadium is named after him.
Wow.
So
Love
there you go.
Wikipedia.
You can get lost.
good.
You can get lost. You can get lost in Wikipedia.
It might not be true.
And that is true. Okay. Should we talk about Tottenham Hotspur 3, Nottingham Forest 1?
How was your Sunday, Johnny?
Sunday, I went to the Science Museum.
Didn't you?
Yeah, which was great. And they had
What, on your own?
No, with the wife and the kids.
Okay.
And they had a retro gaming thing, exhibition, with all the old games like Mario and Pro Evolution Soccer 4, it's the reason I got a 3rd at university was because I just played Pro Evo all day, every day. I tried to get on Mario 1. I only played it briefly. The bloke was sat there for like
Kicking
half an hour.
4-year-old kids out the
No,
way.
some bloke with his girlfriend or wife, like our age, just trying to complete the thing. It's like, come on, there's people queuing up.
Did you say something?
I didn't.
Oh, right.
I walked off
That's
and then got
disappointing.
a little game later on. It's really good. I would recommend it.
I was hoping for a kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David type
Argument.
Yeah.
No, and then so we were.
How long's that on for then?
I'm not sure. Probably throughout the Easter holidays.
Oh.
Worth going. And then I say hot-footed it. It was getting a bit tight for time. I was like, how am I going to get across to the game? So got in a cab. Bloke was a Charlton fan, and he schlepped me across town for a sum that I'm not going to announce.
I was going to say.
Wasn't cheap. But as my wife said, you do anything for Tottenham Hotspur.
I mean, yeah, the tube would have been quicker, but,
He was like, I'm going to struggle to get. I could have taken any tube, yeah, but Liverpool Street would have been better. Like there were so many road closures. Not even sure I can take you, but he did anyway.
Oh.
It worked.
It's good that we've covered the Science Museum and London road closures
TfL.
early on in this pod, isn't it?
Yeah,
Giving everyone what they want.
for all your London needs, this is the pod for you. All right, so I turned up at the game via the expensive taxi, and we made one change from the draw with West Ham. Sarr came in for Bentancur. Wasn't surprised, wasn't disappointed. We'll come a bit more onto the midfield a little bit later. So we go 1-0 up early. That's rare in a home match. Very similar goal to the goal we scored at West Ham. We broke the lines. Udogie into Werner. Werner crossed it in. It wasn't Johnson tapping it in. It was Murillo, who had, by the way, just before that, nearly scored the greatest goal of all time.
Yeah.
Vicario had lost that, hadn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
It was gone.
It was
Yeah.
in.
If it was on target, it was in.
I didn't have the best view from the west stand because it all happened. It went the other side of Vicario, but there was a moment when you saw that Vicario was scrambling when you start to panic.
Yeah.
And when having seen it back on the replay, wow, he leathered that.
Yeah, it was so good. I obviously didn't want that goal to go in, but I want a goal like that to be scored at some point. I want to witness that. That was incredible.
Yeah. So,
I mean, would we fancy someone like Murillo at the Tottenham
Hotspur Stadium? Let's talk about him. I didn't think he was great.
No.
I just don't know
goal.
how good. What I
What
can't work out is how good he is defensively. That's the bit. He's obviously fantastic on the ball and he's very quick. But then
he's left-footed. As we saw, and we do need cover at left centre back. Maybe. If he's a good player. So that was our 5th own goal of the season. We've benefited the most from that.
Yep.
You like a stat, Ali? Stat analyst, Ali. Another stat for you. That was the first time we scored first at home in 2024.
All right, yeah.
Not since we last led at half-time at home against Bournemouth on New Year's Eve have we scored first in a home match.
Wow.
Ouch.
There you go.
You're looking at me like, not that if it's wrong, but now I'm like, what? I wanted you to go, yes, that's right.
No, we're thinking about it going,
Yeah, I looked at it.
and
But-
that's not
sounds
great.
right.
It doesn't make for great reading.
But let's talk about
listening.
that because it's been a problem, right?
Yeah. I'm really surprised by that. I was kind of like racking my brain for something to disprove it.
Well,
But
Go on, tell him he's wrong.
no,
You're
I
wrong.
can't.
I'm
I
gonna
can't.
well, I'll read out the games just so we
No,
can.
it makes sense.
No, I'm going to read it just to confirm it.
I mean, it's a change from earlier in the season when Spurs were scoring first and throwing away
Yeah.
leads, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know which is worse.
So Luton, we didn't score first.
Yeah.
No. Palace, they scored first. Wolves, they scored first. Brighton, they scored first. Brentford, they scored first. And there's your 2024 games.
Wow. And that's not strong opposition, is it?
No.
Everyone in the bottom.
Apart from
half.
Brighton, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that really. Like, I suppose there was an issue that needed addressing when Spurs were earlier in the season and sort of going ahead and throwing away leads. But is this
Like an overcorrection.
Yeah, exactly. Like you need to start games like really, really sort of conservatively, but maybe it's been too conservative. But I don't know.
I'll tell you what I loved about the goal. That it was more or less started by Romero. I don't know if you remember. And he steps into midfield with the ball and he's so good at doing that.
There's been some criticism that he's slowing it all down, but this is part of a plan.
Not for me.
Yeah.
I think he stepped and he played a really quick ball. I can't remember if it was it straight to Werner or maybe to someone.
He played it into Maddison, he played it into
and it was
Basuma.
fizzed it in like 1-2 touches, and all of a sudden Werner's there whipping the ball in. It's like almost like five-a-side football, really. All started by Romero.
Your weekly Timo Werner question.
Mine.
Well, the weekly Timo Werner question.
Which
yes or
is?
no? Keep him, yes or no?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I said when we signed him, I said I can't see us not wanting. Well, I said it was a free hit because obviously it's a free hit. If he doesn't do well, then he just won't get in the team. But if he does well, then yeah, 100%. And also, the criticism is that he doesn't score goals. But he's how many assists has he got now?
I think 3 official. He should really get an assist for the own goal.
Oh, he doesn't get an assist for that.
He gets a fantasy assist, doesn't he, in the fancy league?
Yeah, but not
But
official.
this lot over here.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's not an official.
but
the gatekeepers.
either way, his contribution, whether it's written down in numbers or just the eye test, has been. I mean, he's now the first choice. Well, okay, Richarlison's injured, so make a.
No, Werner's ahead of him.
No, but
Do you think first, if everyone's fit, Son starts up front and Werner starts on the left?
probably now.
Yeah.
But that's because of the way. I mean, Richarlison before he got injured was scoring goals and was the first choice. Because of the way that Werner has now been playing, he's made himself. This is now our first choice.
Friend of the show, Seb
Left and
Stafford
right.
Bloor, said this would happen, that Werner would have an impact for us.
Yeah.
Ali, yes? No?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't solve the problem. It's not like that signing Werner means that Spurs don't need another attacker.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think someone I follow on Twitter was talking about how Spurs have is his name Harry Brook?
Harry Brook, the coach guy.
Yes, very good follow. And he was saying something which I've kind of thought about but never actually sort of put into words in my mind, but how Spurs are just keep signing so many players who are really direct and fast, but no one that can really play in really tight spaces inside the box. And other than Maddison is that player, but otherwise, if you look at sort of Arsenal having Kai Havertz up front and City having players like Phil Foden and Jack Grealish who get into the box, Bernardo Silva, Spurs kind of lack a bit of that kind of guile.
It might be the
in
reason
final
why.
third, and I wonder if, and I even think Kulusevski's not that player.
Yep.
I thought he was, but I don't think he quite is. And I think signing Werner doesn't take away, or very much doesn't take away from the fact that Spurs need a kind of smarter attacker, someone not like Richarlison or Son or Werner or Johnson, who are really bloody fast and direct and score goals. And clearly, there's good. There's a lot of good they bring, but I think there is still a need for a kind of more intelligent, more technical forward.
People keep complaining that we've only had one penalty all season, and that kind of lines up with we're not that clever in the box. Chelsea have had 48 and Arsenal have had 612. I think there's only two teams in the entire football league that have had fewer penalties. Sheffield Wednesday haven't had one and Fleetwood haven't had one. And after that, we've got one with a few other clubs. It may just be a coincidence, but I think you're right. We're not that tricky in the box. It's get the ball in, cross it in. Listen, that's how we score a lot of our goals.
But I don't think the formation it really only allows for if you sign somebody else, they're probably going to be on the bench because you don't want somebody. You don't want if you had a Cole Palmer or a Foden, you don't really want to play them from the left. You want them to be in the middle. I mean, obviously they'd get in the team because they're great players, but the best position for these type of players is as a number 10, where Maddison's playing basically.
Well, he's not doing it.
I think exactly, and I think Spurs should have ambitions, despite what Postecoglou says, of getting into the Champions League next season. And if
so you
Spurs,
need numbers,
and you need so many players. Yeah. This squad is exactly like Newcastle's last season, where it's like absolutely good enough to finish in the top four, but no way is this squad good enough to compete on four fronts and get back into the Champions League next season.
But I would argue that we are actually we are in a stronger position than Newcastle, because Newcastle beyond their starting 11 that you can name last season, we've now got to a point where actually we've got a pool of maybe 14 or 15 who could play on any, not in defence really, but certainly in midfield and up front. If everyone's fit, we've got to that point where we'll talk about the midfielders, have your opinion on who should play, but you can make a case for four or five players to start in the three in midfield, and then maybe a couple of extras. So I think we're only one. I would say we are a couple of fullbacks. We probably need two fullbacks, maybe another.
This number's just going to creep up.
Yeah, but I think we've made. I don't know if Lo Celso is going to stay or not. But the more he plays, I mean,
I've decided you look a bit like Lo Celso today.
Okay, I think I'll take that.
Yeah.
I play like him, so you know.
Well, I need to get 60 minutes and always get injured.
Absolutely.
All right, but anyway, it's 1-1 within, 20 minutes. Chris Wood equalises. Soft goal. Udogie, and he gave up on the ball. You could see on the replay, he knew he'd given up. Well, he knew he was done for, and he put his head up and was like, oh shit. Crossed it in. He got a lucky little break for Wood, who is on fire at the moment. One of the best goals per minutes in the Premier League this season.
Certainly this year as well.
So minutes per goal.
It's the best, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly up there. He's been on fire. A good finish. And then
I think they put on the Sky coverage, they put up a stat that
shot conversion.
Was it shot conversion? He's up there with the best ever in the Premier League. It had like Papi Sarr from 10-11 and
Papi Cisse,
sorry.
I saw that on the replay.
Yeah. I mean, I think so he's
good finisher. He's a kind of striker. I don't want Chris Wood, but that's a kind of box striker that we probably need. Anyway, we're not signing.
I think
Chris
part
Wood.
of it is because he doesn't play that much.
Yeah, probably.
So minutes per goal.
But he's clinical.
Very good. Like he doesn't have that many shots. He's clinical, but he also missed
the
easiest chance of the season.
He just tried to leather it.
Weird.
Yeah, it was odd, and we needed that because who knows at 2-1. But we go into half time at 1-0, and as you may well know, I am the eternal pessimist. But I said to the bloke next to me and the guy on the other side, to everybody who would listen, we'll win this game because we're second half FC. I had no doubt we wouldn't come out and step up. But it's going back to the scoring first early, or not scoring first early. How sustainable is this? We'll be constantly having to come out and play like that in a second half.
Yeah, but I think it is sustainable under Ange because I think he wants. We've seen it over the season. We saw it against Liverpool. We saw it against Sheffield United. We saw it against. What was the one where you were in the loo? Or was that Liverpool?
It was Liverpool.
There was one later on in the since Christmas.
Brentford. We
No,
had
late
3
on.
goals in like
Who
10
did we
minutes.
beat? We beat somebody really late on.
Right, when? Oh,
Well,
yeah.
there was Luton, but there was also
There was a really late. Brighton.
Brighton.
Right.
We'll play to the end. So,
We'll play to the end.
but not just play to the end, but not stop until the end. So I actually think if you're the opposition, I think going in 1-1 at half time, you're the opposition. You're like, they're going to come at us in the second half. I mean, 1-0 or being a goal down is worse, obviously. But, you know, if we could 1-1 at half time, I think it's sustainable. We come out, and, especially against lower ranked teams, we just come out and blow them away.
I think
2 clean sheets in 22 is a problem. Sorry.
That is a problem.
I think playing in only one competition, having very few injury problems with this squad means that with the 5 subs, the extra added time, stuff like that, Spurs' squad is good enough for late to sort of push on late in games. So maybe it is like slightly more sustainable than your brain maybe thinks going so late is, because games are longer now. It's a different game these days.
Different game these days.
Right, Andy. Little birdie, you told me you may have some numbers on our defensive frailties.
Yeah, I guess it was just sort of in light of Forest creating like quite a few, I think, sort of concerning. I mean, it wasn't really surprising, but it was a concerning number of chances, of good chances, and it didn't seem like they were playing that well, and they were sort of cutting through Spurs quite a lot. And I think it's been a problem all season, really. Just there is a reliance on Vicario. I think every game we are seeing Vicario make a save that is like a save that maybe Lloris wouldn't make, or Fraser Forster was playing, he wouldn't make. And Spurs' expected goals against is so this is the number of expected goals the quality of chances they've conceded in games rather than goals conceded is the 9th worst in the Premier League, which sounds like mid-table, but this is 4th, the team that have aspirations of finishing in the top 4. So just a few of the teams who Spurs have a higher expected goals against of are Brentford, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Chelsea, Everton, Palace, and then on top of that, it's the top 5, the other teams in the top 5. And that is a real problem. They're they are obviously. Ange has always spoken about how he wants to entertain, and we're going to score one more goal than you, and that's great. But and it's entertaining, and we'd rather have it this way than last season where we were giving up chances and not creating as much.
Of course.
But I do think that is something that he needs to address, and there probably needs to be a bit more of a sort of view of we need to be solid before we go out and score goals.
Got the way he plays, mate.
Yeah, I know. Good one putting mate on the end of that. I just think that there needs to be a bit more pragmatism, and
I don't think we're going to get it. We've spoken to James Holland. We spoke to Thomas Broich.
But he's not an idiot.
He's not an idiot.
He's not an idiot, and I get that he sort of says, "Well, this is the way I play. This is what we're always going to do, mate." But he also will see what's happening in the Premier League, and like the way that Arsenal are building this title challenge on, and like City and Liverpool are really, really solid at the back, and that's how you get success. Like you can't go concede the amount of chances that Spurs concede to Nottingham Forest and Luton and teams like that, and finish in the top 3, top 2.
It's been my concern all the way through. People comment on our YouTube and they tell me to calm down and it's all going to be fine. And Thomas Broich said it, and James Holland said it, and you've said it. If plan A doesn't work, do plan A better. I just want plan A&a-half. And I think A&a-half is just being a little bit more defensively solid.
I think, though, that Arsenal and Liverpool didn't... I think they started more like we are when Klopp and Arteta... Klopp was very much attack first. Not necessarily attack first, but he worked. The first thing that they did was play more attacking football, didn't they, when he came in?
Yeah.
He then eventually was... He didn't sign Alisson and Virgil van Dijk.
Who was his
in the
original
first season.
goalkeeper?
Mignolet.
Yeah.
When he first came in.
He was, you know,
I know
it
we're
didn't
way
happen in his
behind.
first season.
We're way behind those teams. I just
No,
think
but
that
what I'm saying is that they're always used as the sort of comparison, and they should be because they're the two of the best teams in the league. But the thing that we have to remember is that they didn't fix the defence first. Arsenal's defence has been fantastic, really,
This season.
and last season when Saliba was fit.
Yeah.
And that's because they had Saliba come back. Arteta had been there 3 or 4 years.
But what they also did is spend £100 million on Declan Rice.
Well, and they spent money on
That's
Declan
part
Rice.
of our
but
problem.
their defence was good last year when Saliba was. You know, everyone says if they hadn't lost Saliba, maybe they would have won the league. And Liverpool, you know, they didn't sign. They spent all that money on Alisson and Virgil van Dijk, but not in the first season that Klopp was there. So I think to have a concern about it is absolutely fair enough. But I think. Let's see. I think we need to see what happens.
Yeah.
There's a sort of an idea that there's no way it's going to get better because
No, I
Ange
don't
says
think that.
that's the way. No, but that we're just going to attack until we drop. I mean, I mean we might, but I think let's see what happens this summer. I mean,
Right.
if any of us had said we're going to sign this time last year, who the hell's Mickey van der Ven? Who the hell's Guillermo Vicario? I mean, I was the first person to say. Young goalkeeper coming from abroad, young centre-back coming from abroad in the Premier League. Good luck.
Until Patrick Kendrick told you it was all going to be okay.
Well, he did with Vicario.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we'll just quickly rattle through that game because Van der Ven smacks one in.
Well, what about the half-time
I'm going to
subs?
come to it.
Right.
I'm going to come to it
Okay.
because Van der Ven scores a great goal and you could hear in the ground, you could hear that thud when it left his boot. Brilliant goal, brilliant player, absolute Rolls Royce. What a player.
Really, really good goal. I don't want to take anything away from it, but the defending was so bad. There was just no one near him.
They didn't block, come out
It was
to
a
block.
really simple sideways pass from Son.
There was no
and
one
everyone
there.
was like, well, we need to stay by Son because he's the danger man.
No
And Van
one's
der Ven-
closing down
Yeah,
Big
and
Nick.
Van der Ven just took the opportunity. Brilliant.
Was it just me, though, that was loving the short corners that we did? Did 4 or 5 short
Yeah.
corners, and they worked.
We're
lot
not a
of them.
threat from crosses and corners.
No, but often when corners go short, you think, oh, what's actually happened here? But there was
No, they
obviously a
worked.
couple of them where they'd really worked on them, and we ended up firing the ball into the box
Yeah.
or getting one across the box, as in this case. I thought that is something, I don't know if we'll be able to do it for that much going forward because teams work it out, but that really worked.
Yeah, and the third goal, Porro, surprisingly his first league goal of the season, great finish, game over. But yes, going back to the halftime subs, I've been a little bit critical sometimes of Andy's subs. I think any manager, any fan can point to certain games that you thought he should have done that and he didn't. Fine. The halftime subs were superb because, go on.
Well, I was going to say, what do you think the thinking behind them was? Because I
That's what I
thought
was
that
gonna
Bissouma
ask.
was one of our better players
Yeah,
in
he
the 1st
wasn't.
half.
Well, I
So
thought
what-
that as well. And a couple of
Right.
friends said to me, "What are you talking about? It was rubbish." I thought he was okay. I thought Sarr was lost. Some people said it was still Ramadan. They may not have been on top of it. Whatever it was,
He's got a back injury.
he's got.
as well,
But whatever it
apparently.
was, they didn't play well. And at half time, he brings on 133 odd international caps to run that game and take control of the midfield, which we'd lost in the last 15 minutes of that half. They started to get a grip on midfield. Danilo, Gibbs White, whoever else in there. And bar the last 10 minutes, we got a bit sloppy. Bentancur and especially Højbjerg, who gets a lot of grief, not necessarily on here, but on social media and whatever, I thought they were excellent. They just took that game by the scruff of the neck, and I thought they were brilliant. And have they maybe cemented their place in the starting 11 for certainly the next game?
It's definitely got to be a consideration, doesn't it? I think Højbjerg's contributions this season shouldn't be downplayed because he has been important, albeit mainly from the bench. But long term, is he going to be at Spurs next season? Don't know. He might want to play more regularly.
But with
So-
that, he's been a
but-
model professional. He hasn't
Oh,
hasn't moaned
absolutely.
at all.
No. All I
Yeah,
was going
yeah.
to say was going into the final 7 games of the season, do you want the player who, in my mind, is probably a better choice right now, given after that performance, I think he does deserve to start, or do you go for the longer term view and go with the midfielders who are more likely to be there next season.
No, I think you play who's playing well. And in 3 weeks' time, we'll all be going, oh, Højbjerg's legs have gone, get Sarr back in. But they're on form, they should play. And that's how it tends to be under Ange.
I think it depends. I think it depends how they train this week. If Sarr has a back injury, if that's better, Ange will see that. Ange will know what's going on, and then he'll be able to make an informed. I don't think he'll just base it on what he's seen in that game. But I think that the way that Højbjerg played, some of the stuff that fans have said about him early season, and you just said next season we're going to be in Europe one way or another. You need players who are going to, I mean, maybe he doesn't want to stay, but you need players who are going to be able to make an impact from the bench. And whether that is because he's got a bit more experience, whether it's because he's the type of player who is more, less glamorous. Sometimes you need that in games. There will be games, I think, next season. Look at City, for example, and Arsenal in the week. Look how many changes they made. Arsenal at home to Luton.
Yeah.
If we're playing in Europe next season, if Luton are still in the league or whoever, get Højbjerg to start that game if we've just had a Champions League or a Europa League game. I think there's a place for him certainly in the squad to do that.
If I was
Long
his agent,
seasons are about, as we said, about the squad, and Højbjerg is a better squad option than potentially an Ollie Skip or someone like that. If he wants to play every week, then he wants to leave. But I think I think the contribution that he's made this season has been fantastic.
I totally
From
agree.
the bench mainly as well.
If I was his agent, and he's probably thinking it himself too, I would be looking at elsewhere.
But I also don't.
He's only 28.
I don't think that people say, what is it that he doesn't have that means that he isn't right? Not necessarily to play every week, but what he does do, he's obviously willing. He's a real team player. He's willing to give his all for the team and do whatever is necessary. I think his range of passing is decent. The ball that he played for the third goal started with him pinging a 40-yard ball out to the left, which then ended up.
Went into Maddison in the end.
That was it. Yeah, went in Maddison in the end. Well, that's all started from Højbjerg, and I don't know if anybody thought he had that in his locker.
I think the problem for him is the system that Spurs play. I think Ange doesn't think he's disciplined enough to be that number 6 sitting in front of the back four. Or maybe
he's not quite quick
or
enough.
agile enough, maybe.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely not good enough to play in the number 8
No,
slots,
I'll give you that.
Who make those runs. So the runs that Sarr makes beyond the fullback.
Absolutely.
Højbjerg gets into those positions and is just completely clueless. So I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
And Postecoglou is not going to change
No.
the system.
Absolutely not.
So I think that's why he's so good as a sub, because the game needed changing somewhat and Spurs had to play a bit more. They needed to worry less think more about going forwards rather than what was coming the other way. And that's why Højbjerg was okay rather than Bissouma in the second half. But I don't think that he's going to start for Spurs.
No, absolutely not. I agree with you. I just mean as a squad player.
Right.
You could do a lot worse in the course
100%.
of a
I don't
season
think
back in Europe than having him as the backup or the sub to
I just think he's good
Bissouma.
enough to start for a top 10 Premier League team, and I wouldn't be surprised if he would rather do that than sit on the bench for Spurs.
Agreed. Okay. Excuse me.
You're right.
Yeah. So we win. We
He's
end the day-
emotional about
about players
maybe
leaving. We end the day in the top 4 for the first time since mid-February.
Yeah.
Long may it continue, but some tough old games.
When you say the day, the actual day or the match round?
Match round. Because there might have been.
No, it's actually by the end of a day.
Oh, is it?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so there hasn't been you can do it either way, day or match round, but we haven't actually even gone into the 4 halfway through a match round.
Into midnight.
Yeah, since February. So there you go. 7 points in a week, just quickly. 3 against Luton, 1 against West Ham, 4 against Forest. Happy?
When you look at it like that, I think so. We would have liked the win against West Ham. I don't think a draw away at West Ham is the worst result in the season.
Ali?
Yeah. I think I would have looked at those 3 games and thought we should win all 3. But yeah, I have to echo what Jake said.
The echo. Good word.
Also, I think the most important now, recency is beating when Villa lost, to then beat Forest to put ourselves not only 4th but in the box seat now, a game in hand. Okay, it'll be a tough game in hand, but I think that was important.
Yeah. All right, just off the pitch. We're going to step away from the pitch before we talk about Newcastle. One thing that happened in the last 10 days or so was the announcement of the club accounts. We sat here last week and didn't talk about it because I admitted that it's not for me. Don't know anything about it.
Numbers.
You
like numbers?
Football numbers,
Football
but not
numbers, okay.
Not with pounds in front of it. I'm out of my comfort zone. So we didn't speak to Kieran Maguire. We got the next, who is a brilliant football finance analyst. He's got a great podcast, The Price of Football, but we didn't talk to him. We talked to someone who did speak to him and is able to talk to us about what it all means in layman's terms. Should we do that now?
Yeah.
Let's do that right now. Delighted to be joined by Oliver Young-Myles, football reporter for the iPaper. Oliver, thanks so much for joining us.
No problem at all. Cheers for having me on.
Great to have you. So the Spurs released their accounts last week. And I know you sat down, you spoke to football finance expert Kieran Maguire last week to have a look at the numbers. What were the main takeaways, the headlines from your chat with him?
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of mixed results from the financial reports that came out. I think obviously the positives were the revenue numbers. So Spurs surpassed the £500 million mark for total revenues for the first time in the club's history. A lot of that was due to commercial revenue, so things like NFL, Beyonce concerts, all that kind of stuff. Matchday revenue was up massively as well, and Champions League revenue was really high too. So obviously that's the positive. But then on the flip side, they also announced big losses for the fourth year running. So I guess it was kind of mixed results. Maybe you could sort of predict it wouldn't be completely rosy and not the other way around either. But I think on the whole, fairly positive. But with these things, there's always good and negative aspects, I suppose.
So on that note, kind of, we're not experts, so we don't understand entirely what this means for what. As Spurs fans, what we're interested in is what this is going to mean for the club going forward, and particularly this summer. So there's obviously lots of money coming in, but those losses, headline losses, are they something to worry about? Do they mean that Spurs aren't going to be spending big this summer, or can we expect any sort of big outgoings?
I don't think there's much to worry about in that sort of respect. It was interesting in the losses. It kind of pointed out that player trading was a significant part of that. So that basically Tottenham have struggled to bring money in for players, which, you know, people know that anyway. So I think this period that it was covering, they managed to sell Steven Bergwijn for basically what they paid for him. They sold Jack Clarke and Cameron Carter-Vickers. And, these sorts of sales are not going to make a big difference to Tottenham. They struggled to get rid of players like Ndombele, Lo Celso, Reguilon. So that was a significant factor in the losses, the fact that they couldn't shift players that they wanted to. As I have you guys have read the Swiss Rambles report, they put that up yesterday, which is quite interesting. And they basically, in that report, it says Spurs have made £80 million profit from player sales in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Which is less than every other Big Six club. So basically it's saying that Spurs need to improve in terms of selling players, and that will boost those numbers. But it's interesting, next year that will look a lot healthier because they sold Harry Kane, of course, for 85 million. Harry Winks also went to Leicester for 10 million. So that's 95 million of pure profit, which will show up in the accounts next year. So that will be a bonus to the club next year. But in terms of buying players and the club's overall general financial health, it's nothing to be particularly worried about.
Well, that brings it on to then, if you're obviously looking at a couple of the clubs in the Premier League at the moment, they've got themselves into a bit of hot water over how they have dealt with their finances. A lot of the talk over the last few years is that Daniel Levy and the club haven't spent enough money. Actually, perhaps then is this some kind of vindication to the way that the club has been run, in terms of, if you look at the clubs in the Premier League that have got in trouble at the moment, we're nowhere near that.
Yeah, no, for sure. From speaking to Kieran Maguire, he basically said that Spurs are the market leaders when it comes to bringing in commercial revenue. So the things like the concerts, the NFL, the other sporting events, matchday revenue rose by 10% last season. And I think we're starting to see now that now that we've moved on from the COVID period, we're starting to see the sort of fruits of the labour in terms of the stadium and what that can bring in. I think they made basically just under 5 million per match day last season. So the stadium is a massive money spinner. And that's obviously going to help Spurs in a big way, where other clubs like Everton and Forest just don't have that sort of revenue. And even clubs in the Big Six can't really match Spurs. I think Manchester United are the only team that have a higher match day revenue than Spurs in the Premier League. So that shows that basically the club is being run very well in that regard. It's also interesting in terms of PSR, which I know is the thing that every fan sort of wants to know and sort of thinking about now. Spurs have no sort of worries in that regard either, because basically they've spent so much money on their infrastructure, which doesn't count towards PSR. If you invest in your infrastructure, your women's team and your academy, which Spurs have done frequently over the past few years, those costs are all taken out of the PSR equation. So yeah, that's completely fine. And they can also deduct COVID losses as well. And obviously that impacted Spurs more so than other clubs, just because they built a stadium just before the pandemic started. So yeah, from a PSR perspective, they're completely fine.
And just lastly, in the article that you wrote, you also spoke to the trust, the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. Obviously, one of the big kind of takeaways was the bonus that Daniel Levy got. What did the trust have to say to you about that?
As you'd expect, really. I think, the fact they are making so much money from matchday revenue, it's 117 million. Over last season. Basically, the impact that the season ticket price rises and the senior concessions will make to the club are negligible compared to how it will impact the fans. So obviously the trust was very unhappy with that. I believe that they were informed by the club before they went public with the season ticket price rises, and they've spoken to them since. But yeah, I'm not sure if anything's going to change on that in that regard. But yeah, they obviously weren't too pleased. And from a sort of outside perspective, I don't think it's a particularly good look either. Daniel Levy's total package for 2022-23 was 6.6 million, which I believe is the highest ever, the most Premier League director has ever made across a single season. And if you look at how last season went for Spurs, it obviously wasn't a successful one, lowest league finish since 2009. So the trust, when I spoke to them, were also questioning why has he got this bonus? It's clearly not a football related thing. Maybe it's to do with these other things that we've spoken about in terms of revenues from concerts and NFL and these sorts of things. But they obviously weren't best pleased.
Yeah, it certainly caused a bit of a stir on social media. One thing that's caused less of a stir on social media was our football this season and under Ange since you took over. Just as your role as a reporter, mainly focusing on the London clubs, how have you seen Tottenham this season under Ange? Yeah,
I mean, it's a welcome change, isn't it, from what came before? I think good 4 or 5 years, really, since Spurs have been playing consistently attacking football. There's a bit of a period when Conte first came in where it was quite exciting and they were scoring a lot of goals, but I think in general the style of play has been very sort of reactive rather than proactive. So I think in that regard, Ange has come in and certainly made improvements. I think there are obvious areas in the squad that do need to be improved, I think, in the summer, but in terms of the groundwork that's been laid and the sort of change in style and getting players into the side that perhaps weren't playing particularly well last year, I think he's done a fantastic job so far. And yeah, it's certainly a lot more positive than it was at this stage last season.
Absolutely. Oliver, brilliant. Thank you for joining us. Your thoughts, to talk to you, based on your chat with Kieran, great, telling us what it all means, because I didn't have a clue, to be honest. So great to get it in layman's terms and great to get your thoughts on Tottenham overall. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, no worries at all. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, mate.
Good chat with Oliver. It kind of, for me, just spelt out what it was all about. We're in a good place, right? It seems.
Yeah. Primed for more sort of ridicule from other clubs about putting that in our trophy cabinet. But yeah, can't really complain, can we?
Yeah.
No, but people do complain about the Beyonce concerts,
I don't know why.
the rugby,
Yes.
the
They
complain?
NFL. Yes,
Yes.
because the
What, my
the,
football place needs to be a holy
no,
place.
the accusation is that the club are too focused on commercialization and commercial elements. The fact of the matter is that Manchester United were always seen as the beacon of how to be a commercial entity off the pitch for years. And basically what we're just hearing now is that we perhaps have overtaken them in terms of that side of the business or that side of football. They said that Manchester United make similar. He said it's similar to us on match days, but in terms of the overall commercial takings, I mean, I know football is about putting the ball in the back of the net, but it is also about how much money you can make and how clever you can be, or not make, how much money you have to spend to improve the team. And this is all part of it. And I think it's even harder today with the rules that are now in place to be able to do that. And I think we have to give big props to them for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that people want to see results like in the here and now, don't they? And there needs to come a time where Spurs fans aren't coming to terms with going out of the cup again and thinking, well, there's always next year.
Yeah.
And that needs to happen soon, I think.
People also want to see £100 million players. I know I mentioned Declan Rice, but we've also talked about Timo Werner. If he's 15 million and he fits the mould, Udogie was 18, Vicario was similar.
Well, people look at the figures and go, "Oh, that's Levy not spending the money again." They said it with Vicario. Oh, he's gone for the
Van
cheap.
de Ven, they wanted Tapsoba. He was £12 million more.
They went for the cheaper Vicario over Raya, and now I'm looking at it going, "Well, what difference?" I don't care if there are bargains to be had out there. We've seen it over the years. I mean, there's so many players that you can name over the years. Leicester were doing it for a couple of seasons. Obviously the likes of City and that haven't, they'll spend the money, but you see clubs do it. There is talent to be unearthed out there. You don't always have to spend 100 million just to get something.
Well, we've spent a lot of money on nonsense in the past. And Dembele, Celso has been okay.
But I think every club has got that on their books. There's players that Villa have brought in. Brighton. What about Brighton? Look at the players that they bring in, and then we're not looking to necessarily bring them in to sell them on. But you can see by the looks of Van de Ven, as you said, Udogie. I mean, did we pay fortunes for Porro?
30, close to 30 odd mil.
Yeah, I mean, that's not that much.
No. It's out there, isn't it?
It's out there,
You don't have to spend, listen, again, Rice has been brilliant for Arsenal. You can spend 100 million, but you can also get a Caicedo for 100 million and it not work. Chelsea have spent a lot of money on a lot of rubbish. All right, back onto the pitch then. Newcastle away on Saturday morning.
Afternoon. Saturday afternoon, I think you'll find.
Sorry, yeah. Depends where you are.
We're a global show.
Global show, mate. Saturday morning, afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. It's a horrible game. But actually, you said we've got a good record there recently.
Yeah.
Bar last year's
I don't
thumping.
remember any of these games, but aside from last season 6-1, Spurs won 3-2 the season before, got 2
goal scorers in that game?
Oh, Kane scored in that game. I remember
Probably.
that one.
Good. Well, that's an obvious guess, isn't it?
It was
so long ago.
Or do we always
This
play
was
in
only
purple?
2 games ago against them, but it was so long ago that Tanguy and Ndombele got our
He
first
scored a
goal.
lovely goal, yeah.
Then Harry Kane, Heung-min Son. And Spurs have got a decent record up there, but I suppose Newcastle haven't been good for that long, have they?
No,
So,
that's true.
they're a different team these days. But I think I do think that 6-1 has scarred a lot of people.
Good God. I said to my son that day, he was just sort of getting into football. Was it April last year?
Yeah.
So, we're going to watch the game. And I thought about it. I thought, I've got to watch this game with him because he's just getting into football. But I said, actually, I can't. We were in such a mess. I said, we're going to be 3-0 down at half time. I'm not interested. Well, we were 3-0 down.
You didn't watch it?
No.
Oh, wow. Good
I
decision.
remember putting the telly on and it was already on Sky Sports and I was going to change the channel and they scored within 60 seconds, whatever it was. I thought, well, that'll be it. Turned it off. WhatsApps were pinging. Checked the score at 20 odd minutes and it was 4. Shambles. Utter shambles. I mean, was it the last game Lloris played for us?
Whoa.
I think it was. He got dragged. Did he get dragged at half time?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I'm checking now.
I don't think so.
But it was a shambles.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, God, are you serious?
He did.
And I don't think he played for us again.
Well, fair play.
I'm not blaming him, but the whole thing was just...
No, it was a shambles. It was a shambles.
He wore his heart on his sleeve. Like,
No, it was
there'd have been a
shambles.
row, and I think we forced to play it out at the end of the season. Shambles. We do go there in much better shape. They're in not as good shape. So many injuries. But we've got to get something, because we talked about just breaking into the top 4 for the first time since February. Great. We've had a good run, certainly of home games, easy home games. We've got some games coming up.
Yeah, this is the run is so hard that this is actually one of the more winnable games.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think Spurs, I don't think they need a result. I don't think it will be disaster or time to panic if they don't get a result. But it's the kind of game, it's an opportunity against a injury-struck Newcastle team who are a bit out of sorts, and Spurs are on a decent-ish run.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity to go and get a result at a difficult place to go.
You say, like almost jokingly, it's one of the more winnable games, though. If you look at our run coming up,
I was deadly serious.
well, yeah, but and it's sort of funny though, because if you think about the teams that we've got coming up, yeah, we've got Arsenal, and we've also got to go away to Liverpool. But how do we feel? Yeah, City. We've also played
Chelsea
Burnley
away.
at home
away.
and Sheffield United. Yeah, so what do we think about Chelsea as a winnable fixture?
They're awful.
I think you should say repeat everything I just said about Chelsea.
Right,
This is a really good opportunity to go to a difficult place
Yeah.
and get a result.
Yeah.
And Spurs should 100% be going into that Chelsea game.
But what I'm trying to say is we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games left.
Seven.
Seven.
City's not on. Won't be.
Yeah,
on
we've
there
got
'cause
7
it's
games
not
left.
got a
And
date.
we'd say 3 of them are really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 4 out of 7 is not that bad. If we win those 4, would we not fancy finishing 4th?
Yeah, absolutely. But Newcastle and Chelsea are both tough. Still both tough games.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's a great point. This is when the fixtures came out. Everyone was taking clips of the April, going,
Yeah.
"Hey, look, Spurs, what you've got coming up after you play."
And
Luton
everyone
Forest.
would have said, if Spurs want to finish in the top 4, they need a good cushion by the time this run comes around. And what's the cushion? Goal difference.
Yes, but nobody would have had Aston Villa down as the team that we're competing against. The cushion, you'd have needed a cushion to stave off maybe
proper United,
yeah, basically
Chelsea,
United or Chelsea
or Newcastle.
So they've done that.
or Newcastle. So
yeah, they've done
Villa are blowing up at the moment. That's one thing I will say. They've also got Europe. I said this a couple of weeks ago. Aside from their first choice 11, there's not much left in the cupboard, and they've got injuries as well.
And they got Villa, sorry.
Villa,
Yeah,
and they've got Europe.
Lille are a good side. They could knock them out.
Well, hopefully they don't.
Yeah.
So, but exactly. So I don't know. It feels like, I don't know. I might be speaking too soon. It feels like they've hit the buffers.
You're speaking too much, so I'm going to stop the talking.
Shut up.
Should we talk to a Newcastle expert?
Yeah. Don't
Yeah,
listen to me.
No, I'm not going to. Let's do that right now. Delighted to be joined by Andy Sixsmith, Premier League reporter. Andy, thanks so much for joining us.
No worries, folks. Like being COVID again, being back on Zoom and doing this sort of thing. It's brilliant.
Well, we're delighted to talk to you. So look, looking ahead to Newcastle, a season full of promise at the start, into the Champions League for the first time in many years, but it hasn't quite panned out the way people maybe had hoped. But what is the mood like up there at the moment?
Pretty much, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the majority of fans that you speak to realise that, Eddie's admitted this as well in press conferences and interviews we've done to him. Last year was incredible. It was great. Ultimately, Newcastle finishing 4th, making Champions League, that was about 4 or 5 levels faster than what we expected that to happen up here in the Northeast. So this season was always going to be that kind of plateauing, I think, of expectations from the fans, but also in terms of what we're able to do. Look, I'm not going to sit here, guys, and go, we've had countless injuries and the stats will back us up on that. I mean, there's 11 players out at the minute, 4 are out for the rest of the season. Obviously, the suspension of Sandro Tonali as well has not helped. But it has been a season of just kind of flattening out expectations a little bit amongst fans. I think a lot of fans, if you speak to them, will turn around and agree that injuries, suspensions included, that's resulted in, obviously, a season where we'd not been up there fighting for the top 4, top 5 of the Premier League. That to drop off a little bit rather than fight against you guys at Tottenham Hotspur for that. But when you're taking it into consideration and when you're taking it into context, despite all the injuries, despite the suspensions, despite the off-field noise as well around Dan Ashworth too, for Newcastle to still be within a couple of points of European qualification, still be well and truly in that European hunt, shows what a bloody good job Eddie Howe and this coaching staff have done, and what the players have done as well to fight through that. So, yeah, there's a few fans who have shown a little bit of dissent, whose expectations have risen after the Champions League qualification last year, and obviously the dream of the Champions League this season being back at St James's Park. But ultimately, I think the vast majority would look at it and say, put it in context, I think making Europe would make for a fantastic season indeed.
You mentioned Eddie Howe. I was just going to ask you, has he come under pressure at all? Maybe not from the fans, but maybe from above, with the expectation of maybe not getting back into the Champions League. Has there ever been a case at all that he was under any pressure?
I think there'll always be pressure at this club. You know, it's a huge club at the end of the day, whether you're speaking fans, whether you're speaking board. What I would say with regards to the board's relationship with Eddie Howe is it's absolutely pristine. It's superb. The board love Eddie. And they love him for what he's already accomplished at the club. They loved him from the second he walked into the interview room, having spoken with members from the club. They knew what Eddie Howe could do for Newcastle. I mean, they went a little bit, perhaps too far, in terms of viewing him as a Sir Alex Ferguson figure at Newcastle United. I don't think anyone could necessarily compare to that, putting the pressure on Eddie's shoulders. But in terms of what he's delivered so far, he has bought himself a lot of time, a lot of grace with regards to it. You've got to take the fans into consideration as well. And yes, there has been some murmurs, some, a little bit of dissent in terms of the performances this season. And let's not beat around the bush. Eddie would be the first person to say some performances in the first half against Fulham was awful. Yeah. Absolutely awful. And that's happened on a few occasions this season. But we've seen flickers of that old Newcastle returning as well. So in terms of the pressure that Eddie's under, I think it's very, very minimal. I think there'll always be pressure for any manager that takes on the Newcastle United hot seat, especially with the owners being as they are these days since the takeover. But I think the vast majority of the fans are sticking firmly behind already, and the board certainly are sticking with them at the moment. I'd be very, very intrigued to see what this team could do without the injuries and suspensions, with a full summer, and then interestingly to see what happens next season if Newcastle are back in European competition. But if they were to make Europe, I think, considering everything that's happened, it will be a pretty good season on the North East.
Hi, Andy. I was just going to ask about Spurs' game this weekend at St James's Park, and given what happened a year ago, which I think is still quite a fresh wound for a lot of Spurs fans. So they're going there with a bit of trepidation. You've mentioned all the injury problems. Is this a game that Spurs fans can maybe be a little bit more optimistic about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the mood was going into that game at St James's Park last season, but I'm sure whatever positive mood was blown away inside the opening 20 minutes. I mean, it was brutal. It was probably one of the best performances I think I've seen last season from any side inside the opening 20 minutes. Look, this is a completely different Newcastle United. This is a Newcastle United that has been decimated by injury. The confidence is nowhere near as high. And it's that big word for me, to be honest with you. It's the confidence of the team right now. That confidence of that team that went into that day at St James's and blew Spurs away, it was sky high. Absolutely sky high. There were 7 or 8 of that first 11 who were starting high on form. Probably the best form in their careers. Alex Isak, Bruno Guimaraes, aside, maybe Anthony Gordon as well would make a case for it. The rest in the team maybe aren't as high on confidence as they were that day. So yeah, it's a different side, a different Newcastle side in terms of personnel, but it's a different side mentally that Spurs will experience this weekend. Having said that, it is still the power of St James's Park. Yeah. It's a very, very intimidating atmosphere. The fans will be right behind that team. The fans won't need reminding what happened at St James's last season. And if it is a case for Spurs of getting a positive result on Tyneside this weekend, it's about navigating that first 15, 20 minutes. But trust me, without trying to, belittle the team at all, who are doing an exceptional job in difficult circumstances, they're not the same team that would blow sides away inside the first 15, 20 minutes like they did at times last season when it came down to it. So, yeah, necessarily I wouldn't say come into it with 100% confidence. Newcastle at St James's is always a tricky task. Whatever side goes out there, they're always going to give 100% and always going to have the fans behind them. But I think it's going to play out perhaps a little bit differently to last season. Fingers crossed it doesn't. I'm all for, a huge lead inside the opening 20 minutes again. I was running up and down the touchline or trying not to last season, but I think it might be a little bit different this time.
And Andy, just away from the pitch, we've been having a look at Tottenham's finances because there was a report out last week kind of going into the detail. A lot has been spoken about Newcastle and over the summer and players they may or may not be able to keep or...
Yeah.
What can you bring us on that? Do you know anything about it? And yeah, I mean, obviously the big rumour is that players like Isak are going to have to be sold. Is that something you see having to happen?
Yeah, this came, to be honest with you, Jake, this came all about from a media meeting that we had with Darren Eales up here at Newcastle a few months ago. And he didn't say specifically that Newcastle would have to sell a star, I think was his term that he used in this meeting. But we all know the limitations of the spending rules of FFP and obviously what's happening in terms of that. Would it surprise me to see one of Newcastle's big stars leave in the summer? I don't think it would surprise anyone. Do I think that it will happen? I think the likes of, and I think the two that we're all referring to here are Bruno Guimaraes and Alexander Isak. I don't think they'll leave. No. I think that Alex is very, very happy up here in Newcastle. He's working under a manager in Eddie Howe who believed in him to the extent that he splashed £60 million on him, made him the club's record signing. And obviously Bruno has this incredible relationship with the fans. They love him. He loves them. He loves the club. So yeah, look, is it going to harness? Is it going to hamstring Newcastle? Yeah, it's going to hamstring a lot of clubs out there, most certainly. And there might very well be a few offers coming for the likes of Bruno, for the likes of Alex Isak. And I think regardless of the incomings that happen at Newcastle this summer, the biggest thing that they can do is hang on to those two and then obviously allow the likes of Joe Linton to return to full fitness, Sandro Tonali to return from suspension in August as well and actually have a full side. Make maybe 2 or 3 signings around them, but hang on to those two. But trust me, there's going to be a lot of interest in them without a shadow of a doubt. They're quality players. But like Eddie says seemingly every week, he gets asked about this in his press conference every Friday morning at 9 o'clock at the training ground. Look, it's a compliment. It's a compliment to Newcastle, the fact that big clubs, PSG, Manchester City, Liverpool, potentially sniffing Arsenal as well, sniffing around these stars.
You're not mentioning Tottenham Hotspur? It's big clubs.
Not. Well, I will ask me again next Monday and I'll make the game. But yeah, it's a compliment to them. So that's what it is. That's what the state of play is. Newcastle aren't a top 2, top 3, top 4 side at the moment. It will happen, as it happens with many other clubs. But if they can hang on to Bruno, if they can hang on to Alex, both of those two this summer, I think it'll be tremendous business done with regards to it. They're already making big strides from what I hear about Joe Linton signing him to a new deal, a potential new 4-year deal could well be round the corner now with regards to Joe Linton. That could have a big impact on Bruno's decision to stay. Good friends with Joe Linton. So there's all these domino effects that could happen. But yeah, to summarise, would I be surprised to see either of them leave? No, I don't think so. I wouldn't blame either of them either. But I genuinely believe that both of them love Newcastle to such an extent that they want to see this club return back to the Champions League at some point and then challenge for titles and trophies too.
Before we let you go back on the pitch, little prediction, please, for Saturday's game.
I'm an optimist. It's not going to be another 6-1. Regrettably, I love it. You can get me straight back on next week if it's going to be. We can't keep a clean sheet at the minute. Newcastle defensively, she's been shorn of Sven Botman, Jamal Lascelles now, same injury. Trips, he's unlikely to be back this weekend. Tino Livramento out as well. We looked a bit more secure considering Dan's come back in alongside Fab Scher, but I still can't see us keeping a clean sheet against the Tottenham Hotspur side that, you guys will know fine well the attacking power that you guys have. I would be very, very happy with a score draw this weekend from a Newcastle United perspective, but I'm still going to be an optimist, still going to be positive. I'm going to say that we're going to run out 3-1 winners at St James on Saturday.
All right. Well,
who asked him on?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? He's not coming back on. Andy, as I say to all our guests, good luck for the weekend. I don't mean it, but thank you so much for joining us. Really great to talk to you.
No worries, my pleasure, and best of none luck this week.
Cheers, Andy. Good chat with your mate Andy Sixsmith.
Friend of the show.
Friend
Lovely
of
guy.
yours, friend of the show. They're going to be
I've
optimistic.
spoken to him a lot. A bit like you. I don't think I've ever met him in about 5 years. I maybe met him once.
Yeah, I work with him. It's all WhatsApp. So
Yeah, there you go.
They're going to be optimistic because, like he said, St James's Park is a massive. Like, is there like X stadium? Is it like if there was XG for stadiums?
Yeah.
St James's Park would be way up on that sort of stuff.
That and Anfield are the two, really, aren't they?
Yeah, certainly as Spurs go. I know you said we have a good record there recently. It doesn't feel like it.
What's their home form been like this season? I'll put you on the spot.
You
They
can put
had,
him right on the
they had
spot.
a good run at the beginning of the
They
season,
did.
and then it went a bit patchy, and it's still not great, and it's not great. Last 6 results are 3-2 loss to City, which was close. That 4-4 crazy 4-4 against Luton, a 2-2 draw with Bournemouth, 3-0 win over Wolves, which kind of came out of nowhere a bit. Then that comeback win against West Ham the other day, 4-3, and a 1-1 draw against Everton, where they just did not kill the game off.
Well, it's interesting.
They were far the better team.
Yeah, I remember that.
Could not kill
That-
them off.
Yeah,
It's an opportunity. It's a massive opportunity for Spurs.
they won a great run until Boxing Day when they lost to Forest. Our friend Chris Wood. They
By
kept
which point the injuries had just
Yeah.
absolutely just killed them.
They kept 6 clean sheets out of 7 in that run, only conceding to Chelsea. And since then, 3, 6, 10, 12, 15, 16 goals conceded in 7.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
It's gonna be an
Dan
open
Burns
game.
had to move to centre back, which, as good a defender as he is, they were really successful with him at left back, Cher and Botman, and then Trippier out on, and that was the hallmark of the cornerstone, of their season basically last year. And they've barely had those 4 fit for any length of time, certainly since Christmas.
I'm listening. I'm just updating my
I was about to say, because you're going to say what I
outside.
think the score's going to be. I as always, I fancy us to score probably 2. I expect them to concede, is what I mean, basically.
100%.
Whereas last season,
And us.
aside from when we went to play them, because we were obviously a shambles, they were and we did score that day. Everybody forgets Kane scored that fantastic
No, it was
goal.
okay then.
Their defence was a lot more solid. And so I think they're a completely different. It feels like they're a different prospect. Well, we know they're a different prospect this season.
Going to be goals,
2-1.
right? 2-1 to Spurs.
Yeah, I can't see us scoring 3 against them because they're not.
Well, you wait for my prediction.
They're not complete mugs.
I think it will be 3-1 Spurs.
I'm going
It
to go.
always seems weird. I thought maybe it would be 3-2, but predicting 3-2 seems completely
Yeah, where are you
insane.
getting that from? Yeah.
But 3-1, I'm going to go for.
I think I predicted 3-1 against Forest, by the way. Just put that out there. No, I think actually I said 3-2. I'm going to go 3-3. I feel we had a 3-3 against Newcastle back in the day. Mike Hooper saved the penalty from Jurgen Klinsmann. Does that ring any bells?
Oh yeah.
Their goalie got sent off or injured. Mike Hooper came on as
Cernacek.
sub. Yeah. And the first thing he did was save a Klinsmann penalty.
Yeah, that could be the one.
Spursing our way through the 90s.
That was at theirs, was
Would
it?
you take a draw right now?
I know people go, you can't, we've got to win these games. Put it in the comments.
Is that an impression of a particular person?
That's an impression of someone having a go at me. A particular person, I can hear a friend of mine who will tell me that we have to go and win every game. I would take a draw at Newcastle. Yeah. Would you?
No.
Look,
Given the context of the other games that they've got.
They're still a good side. Bruno's playing really well. It's one of those things, if we're 3-0 up with 10 minutes to go and we draw 3-0, no, I'm not taking it. But there's going to be moments in that game where we are under pressure, where they're banging on the door, where they're going to score.
But
Yeah.
Gallagate's going to be up.
Yeah.
All of that.
12:30 is probably not the worst time to play them.
Yeah.
It's probably a little bit quieter. No, it probably is.
Are you
They've
saying?
been
Are
up-
you saying there's
they've
been less
been up-
hours in the day?
They've
Yeah.
got
I
up
don't know.
early.
I don't know
They've
what
got
time
up
Big
early
Market
for it.
opens. All right. Ali, before I let you go, you talked off air about the Opta supercomputer.
Yeah.
What's it saying?
Tottenham are massive favourites to get 4th.
Really?
I think it was 62% chance.
But with
at
that,
the
we
moment.
Arsenal would beat Villa, which is great for us, but not great for us at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it's the game in hand, which is basically a free hit. It makes that Man City. I mean, I know Chelsea is technically the game in hand, but it basically means that Man City is a completely free hit just because it's not got a date yet. It feels like it's the game in hand. And yeah, Villa obviously sort of stuttering. So yeah, I think it's got Tottenham down as the favourites to do it.
Dare I ask you who it has to win the league?
It's City.
Is it?
Still City? But it's based on. It's based on the fact that they've won the league 3 years in a row,
Right.
and the remaining games. City's running. You look at it, and
No,
they could genuinely win every single
So could
game.
Arsenal. They could.
They could, but
Yeah.
they've got Arsenal have got sort of like 4 or 5 games where you could see them slipping
Us,
up.
Villa, Wolves away.
Yeah.
Has it always been City?
Where else?
United away. Say that again.
Has it always been City?
City have been for every week apart from last week.
Oh, it was like there was
When
Liverpool.
Liverpool
Yeah, that was it.
jumped into
Sorry.
the lead,
Okay.
and
So
then
City are back in it.
now City
got
are
it.
back in front.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Ollie Davis on
Look at you
Twitter.
having a go at him for the Opta
I'm not having
table.
What?
No, having a go.
It was assists earlier. I'm just like coming here to talk about Tottenham. I don't want to get all this abuse that we
Go
get.
away and do XG Stadium, and then we can talk. I saw a tweet from Ollie Davis early this week going through our fixtures. Coys, you'll never work alone. Coys, Blue Moon. Like, we have got a big say in this title race, but we're probably going to want to lose to Liverpool and City to stop Arsenal winning the league.
Yeah, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Well, I wouldn't fancy us to. I wouldn't fancy us to go to Anfield to win necessarily. Anyway,
Would you take fifth if it meant stopping Arsenal winning the league?
as long as we get Champions League,
Would you take Europa League fifth? Yeah.
Probably.
Thursdays are better for me anyway.
Probably.
As are Sundays, so I'm all for it.
Yeah. Can't we just get fourth and City win the league?
I thought Liverpool would possibly win out, and they didn't. Obviously drew with United. It's so worrying, isn't it? It's an incredible title race. If you're a neutral, wow, incredible. If you're an Arsenal fan, you're nervous. Spurs fan, we're nervous. We are, aren't we? Can't have that lot do it.
No, absolutely not.
All right, gentlemen, I've waffled enough. Really good show. Enjoyed it. Good rotation. Højbjerg and Bentancur. Solid.
Who's Højbjerg? You don't have to answer that.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. We'll see you soon. Enjoy the game Saturday.
Thank you.
We will be back next week and up the Spurs.